It would seem that the disgorgement, or the claiming back of the ill-gotten gains, if you like, it's a wonderful word, but we don't have any of that available to ASIC.
Not at the moment, no.
And other countries do.
Yeah, well, I think you probably already heard, I think many people have heard the concept of triple damages. And basically that concept, which says basically you not only lose what you gained, you lose 3 times that. You know, basically sends a message that if you're thinking about breaking the law and getting gain, then the trade-off you've got to be thinking about is it's not going to be that you'll be fined what you gained. You'll be actually losing 3 times that. And it's actually meant to be a deterrent.
If penalties were substantially increased, and if other punishments were substantially increased, would it make a difference to the number and the types of cases that you went after?
Look, I think this is all about deterrent, right? And so what you want is for people to basically think twice about breaking the law. Okay, so the first thing is we actually don't want people to break the law. So we actually want the system to work well and people not to break the law. Secondly, in terms of when they do break the law and pursuing cases, there are 3 factors we always consider. And clearly where there's a lot of harm or loss, that's the first factor. Availability of evidence is another factor. But the third factor, which is really important, is the cost versus the regulatory benefit. Now, if we think that going after a case and actually getting a significant penalty will actually send a deterrent effect to everybody, then clearly that actually will be something which we will consider in pursuing a case. So,
but presumably, you're talking about costs there. Is that why? Because there's definitely a perception out there that ASIC does not go for the big scalps. If you got greater dollar amounts when it came to penalties, presumably that would make a big difference in that sort of decision making.
Well, I wouldn't agree that we don't go after the big cases. On Storm, for example, we've spent $50 million pursuing both compensatory and punitive action on Storm, for example. James Hardy, we pursued, and it cost a significant amount of money. So it could go on. So I think.
Well, can you go on there?
Because put it in perspective, though. What is important is that going after big cases, it's costly. Millions and tens of millions of dollars, right? And it takes a long time. Typical cases can take 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. If you're going to be a good regulator, you've got to work at both ends of the spectrum. For those that intentionally break the law, you've basically got to go after the big cases. And frankly, under my chairmanship, we've got a fairly large war chest where we're very comfortable to go after anybody, right? But equally, it's about a timely outcome. So if frankly we don't have to spend a decade in court to get the outcome that we believe is appropriate, then we won't spend a decade in court. But equally, we will if that's the way somebody wants to pursue it. So that's important. And it's actually important, as they say, to actually be able to talk softly and carry a large stick, and we do have that large stick. We do have the resources to actually undertake big cases, and we do. But on enforcement, separately, the government actually gives us new money every year for what's called the enforcement special account, and there we actually get money every year that actually is specially for taking on big cases, and that money is allowed to accumulate from year to year. And currently we have around 50 million sitting in that fund. And
so that's what you call your war chest?
Exactly. And when I became chairman, that was running down. We've now built that up, and that is there for a purpose. That is there to send a signal to anybody that we're willing to take on any big case. I'm not afraid to take on a big case, but equally I want to make sure that I spend the taxpayers' money responsibly, and that frankly we get timely outcomes, because frankly both from a timeliness perspective and from an efficiency perspective, I'd rather get the outcome I want quicker,
yes,
and move on to the next thing. So that's a big message to business, right? That I will take them on, and I have been willing to take them on. It's, for example, in the United States, very few people actually cheat on their taxes, because they know if you cheat on your taxes, you go to jail, right? And it shapes human behaviour. So I just think we've got to be, thinking about for real people.
Do you think for white collar crime there needs to be more of a threat about going to jail? Because that's something that business, from what I have heard from regulators, that's the one thing they do fear.
Look, I think, again, having worked in the United States, I know the fear of going to jail actually is pretty important in shaping behaviour. But I think it's a penalty that is appropriate for the crime, right? So clearly what we saw, for example, on insider trading, the penalties went from 5 years to 10 years. It shaped behaviour.
Yep.
We had so many more people coming in, actually, we had so many people coming up and owning up and saying, guilty.
Yeah.
Right?
Right?
Because you can then get a discount on the sentence. So, I mean, clearly penalties matter, and penalties that actually, for people that cross the line, matter. If there is anybody that's involved with this sort of activity, frankly, everyone should know that it's far better to come forward to us and own up if there has been a problem than for us to find out about it. We cooperate with our regulators around the world, and we identify behaviour, we identify institutions, we cooperate, and it's just often a matter of, if there is a problem, it's generally often a matter of time before we discover it. So it is a message to everybody, it's even like insider trading. If you're doing it, if you might be getting away with it, we'll eventually catch up with you. It's just a matter of time.
Greg Medcraft, it's been very good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Ticky.
Dot.